So the election didn't go as many of us had hoped. And since then, many of us have talked about following Ellen and Portia, pulling a Degeneres, and getting the heck out of the US.
But quitting the US is more complicated than many realize, as we've discussed on the last couple of our retirement chats with the group.
Yes, definitely. This is Queer Money episode 565, and today we're sharing the top 5 reasons why you won't leave the US this year.
This episode is all about those who are all hat and no cattle. So let's get on with the show.
Capital One Auto Navigator does more than just auto financing. We're here to help you find a car you love, too. Shop millions of cars from thousands of dealers nationwide. Research your favorite makes and models. Explore dealers near you and more. All on Auto Navigator.
Okay, so leading into every election, people often say, if my guy doesn't win, my girl doesn't win, I'm leaving this country.
Yeah.
And that has happened so many times, so often. In fact, our current president-elect said that if they weren't nominated and elected for another term in 2020, that they were going to leave the country. But they did not. They're still here.
Darn.
Like the STD that won't go away. So we've had a couple of retirement chats recently, and one of the discussions that's come up continuously is about how we can leave the country, right? Those who are in retirement or about to retire thinking, where can I leave? Go outside the country where I feel unabashedly accepted, but also it's also affordable. And this episode is going to tackle the 5 reasons that have come up a couple times in those chats about why you won't actually leave the country. It's a little bit more complicated than you think. We're going to tackle some of the excuses, but also provide some solutions to help you maybe overcome some of those challenges.
Or at least get on the path to doing that.
Exactly. So our first one, David.
Our first one is probably the most appropriate for this podcast, and that is financial concerns, right?
Yeah.
For most people, the question is, how can I afford to move abroad without risking financial stability, right? They may be looking at their current financial state and saying, I'm feeling comfortable here right now, and they're concerned about not only how much is it going to cost to relocate, but maybe the fear of losing some stability in your income. Is it going to be different? Is your Social Security going to be taxed different? Are you potentially going to lose a job, a remote job, while you're living abroad? Those kinds of things make a lot of people scared.
Yeah,
Right?
well, I think it's the fear of the unknown, right? And that's the biggest fear that we all have is what we don't know.
Right.
And that you're kind of like, you almost kind of have your shit together here in the US, you think, but going abroad and how does everything work?
Yeah,
What are the true costs? It's not just it sounds exotic to just catch a flight on first class and go move abroad to Portugal or whatever, and it's not a whole lot different than vacation. It's a lot different than vacation.
Yes,
A
it's
lot
a
different than
lot
traveling,
different. Yeah.
and requires a lot more of research basically, and doing your homework and being crystal clear about what it is you're getting yourself into. Otherwise, as we've seen with several YouTube videos, people saying, I got here and I didn't really turn out exactly the way I
I
expected.
hated it, right? So I think that's the important thing here. The solution here is to pick at least one country or multiple countries if you don't have a specific one in mind and start doing your research. Get crystal clear on what does it take to live a basic, a happy, or a fabulous life in those countries, and use that nest egg navigator that we talked about back on episode 546 when we talked about multiple income streams, or on episode 551 when we talked about how to fund your retirement. Because it's a big difference between having maybe a happy or a fabulous retirement here and then having to move somewhere else and maybe have just a basic retirement.
And don't forget to factor in that conversion rate.
Yes.
The second hurdle here is our visa and legal hurdles. Not insignificant either, right?
Right.
We're having our immigration challenges here. Well, a lot of countries, as for those of you who have been paying attention to Spain, they don't want all these people moving to their country either, right?
Or Portugal.
Or Portugal. The same thing's happening there. So, what are the easiest ways to navigate the complicated worlds of visas and residency permits? Unfortunately, it's probably going to cost some money, right?
Right.
Securing visas, meeting residency requirements, navigating foreign bureaucracies proves daunting for many and can be very expensive. But the solutions your Benjamins, right?
Hire a pro.
Hire a local immigration lawyer or a consultant who specializes in people moving to that country. Make sure everything's legal and on the up and up, right? We talked with a real estate agent and an attorney a couple years ago in Spain to kind of get a better understanding of what it would take for us to move abroad, and it wasn't without its challenges, right? Their mortgage process is completely different. Buying real estate there is completely different than the experience of buying real estate here, and it can come as a sticker shock to those of us who want to move from the U.S. to Spain, because they pay in Spain all of their taxes for their real estate investment purchase up front, right? It's not strung along throughout the duration of your mortgage.
Well, there are taxes throughout the whole time you own the property, but the majority of your purchasing tax, the buying of the home, the tax of buying the home, you pay upfront before you even get a mortgage.
Right,
And you
so-
can't roll it into your mortgage, which is
No.
very different than from here.
So that's a bit of a sticker shock. So research countries that are offering expat-friendly visa pathways, like digital nomad visas, startup visas, or retirement visas. Portugal has the D7 visa, Mexico has a temporary residency visa, and then Thailand has the elite visa. Those are all currently on the books now. Those, of course, are always changing. And maybe even consider starting small, not going for like the big visa overall. Maybe start with a tourist visa. Make sure you understand the people and the culture you like. The environment that you're living in, and then maybe start to scale up to bigger visas as you learn more and you're more sure of the decision that you're making. Other considerations are to join expat communities, maybe primarily on Facebook, but there are other places you can go as well. And then also attend embassy workshops and information sessions, right? Those are the people who are part of making the laws and regulations and visas, and they understand it best. So maybe go to one of their workshops to maybe make sure that you understand it as well as you need to.
Yeah, and remember, don't just trust a video you watch on YouTube and what that person is saying, because
What? You
not
can't
only
trust YouTube?
right, not only may their experience be diametrically different or opposed to yours, the way that they moved or how much money they had. So make sure you're doing your own research, and you're actually, I think that's why it's important to touch base with an attorney, a real estate agent in another country, to really find out the truth, because sometimes what people put on YouTube isn't 100% the truth. And sometimes
People
they do
make
that,
mistakes.
Right, they make mistakes, or sometimes they do it in a misleading way.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One, N.A., member FDIC.
The third thing is our attachment to friends and family. For many of us,
Maybe why are we trying to leave the country?
right? Well, right, that's true. Maybe we don't have attachment to family, but we have attachment to our chosen family, and so leaving people behind is difficult, especially if you are with a partner. You both have to think about that, and the people that you may be leaving behind. It is. We live in a global world today, and it's very easy to chat, not only text, but visually chat with people through Zoom and things like that. But you're still that emotional contact of being with people in the same room, and when you're not there when they really need you, or they're not there when you really need them.
You miss birthday parties and anniversaries and holidays and stuff like that. And eventually that can take a toll on people.
Yeah.
The fourth reason are healthcare concerns, right? We obviously have healthcare challenges in the United States, but it's not always a utopia in other countries. So a recurring question that has come up is, how can I ensure I'll have access to reliable and affordable healthcare in another country? Especially if you have a pre-existing condition that's somewhat unique and requires special attention. Not all countries have those kind of quality of services or the types of services that all people may need. So uncertainty about access to affordable, high-quality healthcare abroad, especially for those with ongoing medical needs, is a major concern. Again, we go back to the first recommendation is research, research, research. You can't do enough of research. Maybe talk to people who are on the healthcare system, who are expats in other countries, and make sure that you understand what their experience is like and how you might want to maybe tack according to what they've experienced or not experienced. Or also invest in expat healthcare insurance. There are a couple of companies who do that. Cigna Global, Allianz, and IMG all have specialized healthcare plans for expats that may help reduce some of the anxiety that you have with moving abroad as it pertains to your health.
Yeah, I think it's also really important to remember that just because another country has quote unquote free healthcare or low cost healthcare compared to the United States doesn't necessarily mean that you as an expat immediately get access to that. There may be all sorts of requirements, right? Residency requirements, income requirements, tax requirements. Those things could prevent you from gaining access to that healthcare. So make sure you know what those requirements are before you go in, or as John mentioned, have some sort of healthcare gap insurance with the companies he suggested. And our fifth and final point here, the question or the one of the big reasons why most people will not actually leave the United States in 2025 is they're just waiting for the right time. And although the election may have felt like it's the right time, many of us keep putting this off, right? Many people talked about this in 2015 when the Orange Oompa Loompa won the first time and said, "Oh, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to do this in case something like this happens again." And then we delay it, right? We put that back up on the shelf. We take it off, dust it off a little bit, and look at it, and then we close the book and put it back up there, right? It's this kind of this ongoing. I'm not sure if this is the right time. What are the circumstances that are preventing me? And we get kind of stuck in this indecision, or what do we call that?
Analysis paralysis.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. A lot of
That's
people,
from 21 years of being together, people.
right? A lot of people get stuck in that analysis paralysis, and probably the biggest way to break that is to understand that there will never be the perfect moment to move abroad. There are always going to be some sort of challenges. There are going to be always going to be some things that you weren't aware of before you left. All of those kinds of things. No matter what your circumstances, those things will arise.
I'm here to tell you, you can find the perfect husband, but you can't pick the perfect time to move abroad. And with that, we'll be right back.
The mission of Queer Money is to financially empower the LGBTQ plus community. Join us in thanking Capital One for supporting that mission. Thank you again for joining us for another episode. We hope this one was helpful and answered a couple of questions, or at least put some questions on your list. Come back Tuesday when we are joined by the couples money coach, Adam Cole, to talk about how partners can get on the same financial page and work towards financial success together.
Then join us next Thursday when we talk about why, even today, same-sex couples should consider getting married. It's never been more important. Until next time, stay fabulous.